Hello everyone, my name is ALVINA and my student ID is BB233030987. For this presentation, I will be presenting part 1, which focus on constructing appropriate graph and chart to compare the relative frequency and cumulative relative frequency between two key metrics. First, I gather the data provided, which consists of customer satisfaction scores and customer retention rates for 30 companies. I group the percentage value into the following class intervals, which is 60 to 69%, 70 to 79%, 80 to 89%, and 90 to 100%. Next, I counted how many businesses fall into each interval for both satisfaction and retention rates. Then, I calculate the relative frequency by dividing the frequency by the total number of businesses, which is 30. Then, for the cumulative relative frequency, I calculate by sum up the relative frequency up to that class progressively. After that, I transfer the data to two different tables. First table is customer satisfaction score and the second table is for customer retention rate. After organizing the data, I use Excel to create the graph. These bar charts show the relative frequency comparison between customer satisfaction and retention. As we can see, most companies have higher satisfaction score, especially in the 80 to 89% and 90 to 100 range. However, customer retention is more spread out, and there are some businesses in the lower 60 to 69% range. This line graph shows the cumulative relative frequency. The line for customer satisfaction rises more steeply, meaning more businesses have high satisfaction score, and we can see the line for customer retention is more gradual, indicating a wider spread and slightly lower retention score. In conclusion, these graphs are to provide insight to help businesses identify whether they are performing well or improvement are needed.
Hello, I'm Natania. My metric number is BB233110569, and I will be explaining the part 2 of our analysis, which is calculate and compare the measures of central locations between the two key metrics, which is the customer retention rate and the customer satisfaction score. For our analysis, we have calculated three key statistics for both metrics, which is, first of all, the mean or average, the median, the middle value, and the most frequent value. We will start with the mean. For CSS, we have total all 30 data and divided it by 30, giving us a mean of 83.57% as seen in the calculations on the slides. For the CRR, customer retention rate, we did the same and we found the mean to be 72.90%. This tells us, on average, customer satisfaction is higher than retention. Next, I will explain regarding the median for our analysis. So after sorting the data, we can see the middle values of the CSS were both 85. So the median is 85%. And for the CRR, the middle value is 74, so the median should be 74%. And again, we see customer satisfaction is more higher than CRR. Next, I'll explain about the mode. For CSS, the most common value and most frequent value is 88, which appears 3 times in the graph in the data. But as for CRR, there isn't the dominant value. Instead, there are multiple different values like 68, 70, 74, 80, and 85, and they all appear twice. This makes CRR multimodal, which means there is no clear mode. This variability in CRR indicates a less consistent pattern compared to the CSS. So from all of this gathered data, what does it mean? On average, businesses have higher customer satisfaction than customer retention based on the data that we have collected. Median values also confirm these gaps, which is 85% compared to 74%, indicating that customers may be satisfied but not necessarily retain. This suggests that there may be other factors like satisfaction, such as price, convenience, loyalty programs, or competitive offerings that influence retention. In other words, satisfaction doesn't always guarantee loyalty when it comes to businesses. Thank you.
Hello, my name is ALLEYIA Natasha and I will be presenting the descriptive analysis result for our data set of 30 local businesses, focusing on two key metrics, which is customer satisfaction score and customer retention rate. Our goal is to explore how these two variables compare and interpret their distribution using percentiles, box plot, and interquartile range IQR. We began our analysis by calculating the 25, 50, and 75 percentiles for both metrics using the percentile formula, which is LP equal N plus 1 P over 100. This tells us the position of the percentile in a sorted data set. For customer satisfaction score, 25 percentile is at position 7.75, so we interpolated between the 7 and the 8 values, which give result 79.75. For the 50 percentile or median is at position 15.5 and the result is 85. For 75 percentile is at position 23.25 and the result is 89.25. And for customer retention rate, for 25 percentile, the result is 68 and median is 74, and 75 percentile is the result is 80. These percentiles help us understand how the data is distributed and where the majority of values lie. We calculated the IQR, which measures the spread of the middle 50% of the data. For customer satisfaction score, the IQR is 9.5, and for customer retention rate, the IQR is 12. This means that the customer satisfaction scores are slightly more consistent across businesses, while retention rates show slightly more variation. A higher IQR indicates a wider spread in the middle 50% of the data. Using the percentile and IQR values, we constructed box plot to visualize the distribution. The customer satisfaction score box plot shows that most businesses score between 79.75 and 89.25 with a median of 85. The customer retention rate box plot is slightly more spread out with values between 68 and 80 and a median of 74. The whiskers extend to the minimum and maximum values within the acceptable range, and no outliers were found in either metric using the IQR method. In conclusion, both metrics show fairly good consistency across businesses, with customer satisfaction being slightly more tightly clustered. While businesses may keep customers satisfied, the slight variability in retention suggests some may struggle to turn satisfaction into long-term loyalty.
Hello, my name is ATIKA J. My number matrix is BB2330301. I'll present part 4. To calculate and compare measures of dispersions between the two key metrics, it will include range, mean absolute deviation or to be known as MED, variance and standard deviation, and lastly coefficient of variation to be known as CV. So as you can see here, the formula for range is maximum value minus minimum value. For the customer satisfaction score, the maximum value is 93% minus 70%, which is the minimum value of customer satisfaction score. We will get the answer is 23%, while for the maximum value for the customer retention rate is 88% minus 60%, which is the minimum value of customer retention rate, and the answer is 28%. Based on this answer, showing that customer satisfaction score has a higher score and lower variability, and customer retention rate has a lower average and higher variability. For the mean absolute deviation, we use sample method. For customer satisfaction score is calculated as 146.54 divided by 30, and the answer is 4.88%. For customer retention rate is calculated as 174.21 divided by 30, and the answer is 5.81. According to this percentage, customer retention rate generally deviates from the mean more than customer satisfaction score, indicating that customer satisfaction score performs more consistently or has a marginally higher forecast accuracy than customer retention rate. Next, to compare measures of dispersions of the two key metrics, customer satisfaction score and customer retention rate, we calculated both variance and standard deviation. For customer satisfaction score, the variance was computed by dividing the sum of squared deviations 1057.52 divided by 30 minus 1, resulting in a variance of 36.47%. Taking the square roots give a standard deviation of 6.04%. For customer retention rate, the sum of squared deviations is 1436.35 dividing by 30 minus 1 gives a variance of 49.53%. The square root of this value yields a standard deviation of 7.02. These results demonstrate that customer retention rate is more variable than customer satisfaction score, meaning that whereas customer satisfaction score data points are generally more consistent, while customer retention rate data points are more spread out from the mean. Lastly is coefficients of variation or CV. For customer satisfaction score, the CV is calculated by dividing the standard deviation 6.04 by the mean 84.23, resulting in a CV of 0.07. For customer retention rate, the standard deviation of 7.02 is divided by the mean of 74.07, giving a CV of 0.07. This implies that customer retention rate is more relatively variable compared to customer satisfaction score. For example, customer retention rate values are more spread out relative to their mean. Lower CV in customer satisfaction score means that it is the most stable and consistent measure.